Hello everybody, Slim Kirby here, and let's get Mario Party 5 over with. Okay, I know I don't sound very enthused right now, as enthused as I was about the previous 4 games anyway, but I can't help but feel like Mario Party 5 took a bit of a step back in terms of quality, just to be frank. It went all in on a new but inadequately developed item system for board gameplay, but while I think that is the roughest part of playing a game in Mario Party 5, that's not why we're here. We are here for talking about the minigames. And I honestly feel a huge chunk of the minigames in this installment are pretty lazy for the most part. There are some notable highlights and winners, and I'm not going to take that away from this game, but let's just say the bottom of this list will be very unremarkable, and I probably won't have very much to say about some of the lowest entries as a result, aside from the fact that they are really just that bad. Even with all that being said though, I am rather curious to see how this list will end up, so let's get right into the action and see what we got today. As usual, any minigame that is featured in the free play menu will be accounted for in this ranking: 4-player, 1 vs 3, 2 vs 2, battle games, duel games, DK games, and Bowser games. The only special case minigames that will be included for this list will be the 2 sports games that can be played in the bonus mode, and the finale minigame for the Mario Party 5 story mode, Frightmare. While Card Party and Super Duel Mode are interesting bonus modes in themselves, I feel like they're a little more extensive and take a bit more setup to be classified as minigames, if that makes sense. That's pretty much the only stipulations I have this time though, so let's go ahead and get things started with the Mario Party 5 minigame ranking. Remember, this list is purely my opinion, so if you disagree with me, you are completely entitled to feel differently. Just understand that it's ultimately my opinion, and if you say that I'm wrong for having a different opinion, or even worse, if you insult or make fun of my opinion or anyone else's, well, that's pretty cringe. So, let's not do that, okay? The Star Spirits are waiting to take us to the world of the Dream Depot, so let's pick up our controllers and start looking at some minigames. Hope you guys enjoy. Number 77. That's right, we have 77 minigames this time around, and at the very bottom, yeah, I don't think I even need to explain or justify this one. Get a Rope sucks. Worst and laziest minigame in the entire series. I am not coming down off of that hill. Number 76. Scaldin' Cauldron. You quite literally have no control over your fates. It's luck-based. Number 75, Pound Peril. It's a luck-based duel minigame. Next, number 74, Lucky Lineup. Same as the last few, higher because of a partial payout for second place due to it being a battle game, but that's all I'm really giving this one. Number 73, Random Ride. Okay, this is getting ridiculous. Same as the last minigame, some more leeway with descriptions potentially giving you performance results, but even then the descriptions can still lie to you, and the later you pick in this minigame, the less choices you have. Number 72, Vicious Vending. Come on, even for a coin minigame, where you should still be able to win something, you can still come away with nothing due to luck. Dumb. Number 71, Fight Cards. Okay, so it's not luck-based per se, but still kind of luck-based since you shouldn't know what your opponent is picking. More mind-gamey than luck-based, but still not a great minigame. Number 70, Head Waiter. At least it's better than some of the luck-based trash at the bottom of this list, but similar to the last choice, because this is basically a mind game of unpredictability, this minigame is not one I'd want to stake my coins or my stars on. Number 69, Mathletes. Better than Vicious Vending due to concept and the neat little arithmetic inclusion, but still has the possibility of coming away with nothing, and that's kinda stupid for a coin free-for-all. Number 68, Button Mashers. We're out of the luck-based category, and now we're in territory where I'm just not fond of some of the ideas or the execution for some of these minigames. For this one, it's about trying to mash all the buttons that are showing on screen fast and efficiently enough so you don't get smashed. I've just never been a fan of this, and some combinations of buttons just feel incredibly awkward to press all at the same time. Number 67, Heatstroke. Incredibly in the single player's favor, the ability to just troll your opponents with fake swings and then surprise them with a real swing has just never really jived with me on this one. Number 66, Nightlight Fright. I just don't like playing this one. The delay on pressing the A button and getting the chomp to stop is just way too long for my liking, as I often get screwed over as I'm turning around. And sometimes it's just too hard to perceive the distance between you and the chain chomp. Number 65, Big Top Drop. Not as bad as the last few, but I still don't really like playing this one, as the single player or the team of 3. Hard to drop accurate shots with the solo player, and hard to slip in between the balls as the team. Slight preference to the single player, I guess, if I had to choose a side, but I'd rather just choose a different minigame. Number 64, Dodge Bomb. Cool idea, but this minigame ends way too quickly and it's way too easy to get eliminated. In my opinion, it should have had a health bar or point system instead of a one hit and you're out scenario. Number 63, Sub-Marathon. Button masher with an entirely pointless team mechanic. Just hand the control off to whoever is better at mashing, and just let them do the entire minigame. Also, this lasts way too freaking long. Number 62, Mary Poppins. It's a button masher. Number 61, Pump and Jump. It's a button masher. Number 60, Tug-a-Dory. It's a button masher. Number 59, Manic Mallets. It's a team-based button masher. Number 58, Willflower. It's a button masher. Number 57, Wind Wavers. It's an alternative button masher. Yeah, I didn't have much to say about these last 6 games. Really just ordered by severity in terms of what you will lose or not if you don't win, and then by the general game theme and concept. Also, at least 7 button mashing games? Seriously? What the hell, Hudson Soft? Number 56, Berry Basket. Cool idea, but a bit frustrating to play for me personally. Getting on the same wavelength as your partner can be incredibly tough, and the fact that all players shared the same field instead of having 2 separate ones was kind of an odd choice here. Number 55, Shy Guy Showdown. It's quick draw quirks from Mario Party 2, but with the added addition of Shy Guy trying to fake you out. Never been a fan of duels coming down to one button press when there isn't an additional layer of skill involved. But hey, at least it's not luck-based. Number 54, Rain of Fire. It's a Bowser minigame where you examine fireball shadows and try to avoid 2 quick waves of fireball onslaughts. Better than the last Bowser minigame by far, because it's not luck-based, but still pretty unremarkable, and it's really, really short. Number 53, Panic Pinball. I like the setup for this game, and the fact that it's a team game is neat, but kinda hard to really win this one when so much of it can depend on luck of bonus points, and whoever manages to get the multi-ball event. Thankfully it lasts a while, so even if you get a bad start, you can still try to recover, but the other team can also just get further ahead. At the core, it's just pinball. Number 52, Defuse or Lose. I'm definitely warming up to this game a lot more after playing it with human players, but I still am not crazy about it, as it can be kind of overwhelming and anxiety-inducing. While there is a pretty nifty strat of holding 2 fuses up in an intersection for a long period of time, coming off of the rhythm can be detrimental and ruin your flow if you aren't ready for the fuses. Also, good luck if you are with an AI. You'll need it. Number 51, Peace Out. Consider this part of the list where there are a lot of cool ideas for minigames, but execution just kind of falls a bit flat for me. This is the puzzle minigame of Mario Party 5, and I feel like it just doesn't have the staying power of Bob-omb Breakers or even Mario's Puzzle Party, especially as a multiplayer duel minigame. Maybe if it was a single-player bonus minigame where you try to get a high score, it would be a bit higher for me, but as a duel, it can be very dependent on the blocks and colors you get, not to mention when players go for the same pieces. It can be a bit of a frustrating experience. Number 50, Beam Team. Not crazy about either side when it comes to this minigame. At least it's playable, but moving with a team of 3 is a bit awkward with how fast they move, and since collisions with other team members will slow your side down and allow the single player to escape, it can be a bit frustrating trying to nab the Lone Ranger. Funnily enough, I think I prefer being the solo player here, but since any tractor beam results in an automatic loss, it can still be quite intimidating as the single player. Number 49, Quilt for Speed. Interesting idea, but much like Fish and Drips from Mario Party 4, the solo player is clearly the favorite here for having more control over their inputs, since the team needs to work together, and some teammates may have different ideas on which direction to pick. Basically, more room for error on the team side, you could say. Number 48, Curvy Curbs. Pretty much like the last minigame. Neat idea, but the single player just has the more desirable side. Even if their vehicle is bigger, just having to move one car over the team needing to be in sync with moving each individual car just leads to them having more opportunities to screw up over the solo player. Number 47, Mario Can-Can. You would think that after the Great Deflate in Mario Party 4 that this would be higher, but I don't know. To me, this game is just really hard to get in rhythm with your partner on. Instead of having to ground pound at the same time, you almost need to alternate ground pounds. But if you ground pound too early, your can opener won't do anything, or much at all. And it's a race to see who goes fastest, so that sense of urgency will always be persisting. Just a difficult game to get a hold on, but a neat idea nonetheless. It's also fun to see what objects and enemies pop out at the cans at the very end during the cutscene. Number 46, Leaf Leap. A game all about jumping left or jumping right as quickly as possible to make the greatest distance in the time limit. Can be pretty intense when you are on a good run, but can be really hard to keep your patience in check while climbing. I often find myself not making a single mistake until the last 5 seconds, and sometimes a choke like that is all you need to lose here. It's an okay game, but I think many future games do this idea a lot better. Number 45, Divine Climb. Kind of reminds me of Abandoned Ship from Mario Party 2 a little bit, and while I would say this is a lot better, it's really only better because it's a DK minigame, and more bananas means a better coin payout. It's the worst DK minigame in this game for me, but decent at absolute best. Number 44, Fish Upon a Star. Lovely pun, Hudson Soft. But yeah, it's an okay survival minigame. Sometimes the jumping Cheep Cheeps can come out of nowhere and throw you off at the worst possible time, which is why I have this ranked quite a bit lower. In other words, there are many other survival games that I would rather play over this one. Number 43, Womp Maze. I probably don't dislike this game as much as other people do, but I think it's an okay game and has some potential going for it. I just think it should probably be a bit more like Team Treasure Trek's mazes in Mario Party 4, or at the very least somewhat similar to another game we'll be seeing later on in this list. As it stands now though, the playing field is just a bit too small, and the game is just way too short. Luck also definitely plays a big factor in this, as sometimes just choosing the right path at the very beginning could be the difference maker in terms of who wins or who loses. Number 42, Rumble Fumble. Here's the thing with this minigame. Despite its dependence on Rumble and the fact that it's a bit luck-based because of Shy Guy placement, this game is actually not too bad. However, I feel like it needs the Rumble to play it efficiently. It's not impossible since there is a visual cue with the absence of Rumble, but having the Rumble just feels more natural to me. So yeah, cutting this game some more slack after the last time I ranked this game, but still only in the middle of the list. Number 41, Rumble Ready. Slightly better Rumble minigame from the last one, as it's more based on reaction time, and less punishing if you don't have Rumble on. It can create a bit of anxiety and pressure though if your partner isn't as good as reaction times as you are, especially if they happen to go first, as there may not be a winning scenario for you if that happens, so be mindful and careful of that. Number 40, Mass Appeal. Decent idea for a DK minigame, but can sometimes be a bit difficult to move through the path, especially if you play as one of the bigger characters. At least you should be guaranteed some nice coinage as long as you get some bananas in your possession. It's alright. Number 39, Bound of Music. I appreciate the Mario reference to hidden music blocks, and although there is kind of a luck-based element to this one, I don't think it impacts the game too badly. It's a decent duel minigame in a sea of not great duel minigames. Number 38, Blown Away. The scenery doesn't change much from the last minigame to this one, although this is more about survival than getting points. Basically, a little more skill is involved with this one, and that's really about it. Number 37, Bill Blasters. Decent idea for a 4-player battle royale, and I'm glad that you actually have more than just one hit for this one, but it can encourage targeting, and in a way where you can't really defend against it all too well if many players are going after you. so it's probably not my first choice for a battle game unless it's against the two luck-based ones, or Dory's game if I'm against a skilled button masher. Number 36, Fish Sticks. And yes, I said sticks. Look for a fishing line that gets snagged and hope you're close to it and can grab it before your opponents do. There's a small factor of luck involved, I guess, but it's fine on its own. Number 35, Revolving Fire. This one always gives me a bit of anxiety whenever I play it, but it never ends up being that bad. The single player's role is pretty self-explanatory, and the team of 3, although they have the harder task of avoiding the fire-based attacks, the fire bars don't move that fast, and the wave is pretty telegraphed and avoidable. Honestly, the biggest annoyance playing as the team of 3 is probably how your characters slip around on the playing field. It's okay though. Number 34, Ice Hockey. I was pretty excited to play this special case minigame when I first saw it, and was actually surprised that I enjoyed volleyball a bit more than this one. But this game is fine. It's not bad, but I wouldn't say it's anything special. If I wanted to play a Mario Hockey game, give me Mario Sports Mix any day. Number 33, Tube It or Lose It. I think this is a great 1 vs 3 minigame concept, but I always seem to struggle with this one, and funnily enough, I think I enjoy this game a bit more in Mario Party Superstars. The movement, I think, just feels a bit too tight for me here, to the point where if you start moving forward or back, you really commit to that one direction, and can't really move left or right until you've stopped that general movement, and I just have a really hard time committing that movement of this game to memory. I do think that for the most part it's okay though, and I actually think it's pretty balanced and nicely paced as well. Number 32, Dinger Derby. Thankfully this game gives you plenty of time to adjust to the type of pitches that get thrown, unlike Hey Batter Batter in Mario Party 3, but it can still be pretty difficult to memorize the speeds of all the different throws going on here, so you'll likely have some batting ruts you have to work through if you're going to try to aim for the win on this one. Like I said though, there are a lot of baseballs to work with, 30 pitches in fact, so you have a lot of time to get on a hot streak, which does more good for this minigame than bad. Number 31, Twist and Out. Pretty simple survival minigame where you try to stay in the center and catch your opponents off guard and knock them out of the playing field. Gets harder the longer you last, but at least second place should still guarantee you some coinage since it's a battle game. Number 30, Shock Absorbers. Another pretty simple survival game, but this one is a duel game. Not much to say about this one as the goal speaks for itself and is fine for what it is. The only critique I could give it is that I wish maybe the playing field was a little bigger. That's about it though. Number 29, ID UFO. I have a bit of a personal bias for why this one may be ranked a bit lower than how others might see it, but I recognize it as a good minigame at least. I swear, some of the UFOs that you have to match with these panels on your playing field are hard to differentiate, as there are 2 specific UFOs that come to mind that are close to being nearly identical, and I can never quite get the distinction between the two, at least during the heat of the moment in the minigame itself. Otherwise, this would be a really solid 2 vs 2 minigame for me. Number 28, Popstar Piranhas. Honestly, this is another game that's fine for the most part, as it's mainly a notice the odd one out in the lineup, and most of the ones are fairly reasonable to figure out with the added advantage that it's not a first to notice win scenario. Rather, most points will win. Although I will say that there is usually at least one pattern that always trips me up whenever I play this. I wouldn't call that a flaw to the minigame, rather just a challenge to it. Number 27, Cajun Cookin'. This is easily the best Bowser minigame, but also the easiest of the 3. Maybe even a bit too easy if I had to critique something. But yeah, just quickly put in the sequence and you are good to go. Number 26, Banana Punch. Easiest and best DK minigame. Guaranteed payout of coins and can be fun punching open as many barrels as possible. Number 25, Coin Cash. A perfect evolution of Coin Block Blitz and Coin Block Bash from the first Mario Party, and a minigame that perfectly tributes the 2D Mario series in general, as all players hunt for coins and a giant area of brick blocks. It can get pretty difficult, especially later on in the minigame when a lot of the blocks have disappeared, and climbing up to a higher row can be a bit tedious, but it's ultimately a coin free-for-all, so as long as you are persistent, you should be able to get a decent number of coins in your pockets at least. Number 24, Triple Jump. I know it might seem weird having a button masher this high up, especially this much higher than the other button mashers, but I feel like this is the way a button masher should be. You don't mash just one button the whole time, and the game is perfectly telegraphed on when you switch buttons. Plus, it's an ode to Mario's classic triple jump in the 3D platforming titles, so a neat little tribute and callback of sorts. It's still button mashing though, which does dock it some points, but I do like this one and how it works. Number 23, Banking Coins. This is an interesting team-based coin game where one player makes the coins appear and the other tries to collect them. What I think makes this game good is the fact that you aren't hard locked into your role like you would be in other Mario Party games. If you aren't comfortable doing one thing, or if a coin seems to be out of reach of the collector, you can switch on the spot, which is pretty nifty. Moving around on the platform can be a bit of a chore though, since it tilts and moves around, but it plays nicely and you can make a decent bank from it. Number 22, Handy Hoppers. An interesting take on the hot rope jump and TikTok hop format, but as a 2 versus 2 game where one player spins the bar and the other player jumps over it to see how many successful jumps the team can make. The biggest challenge is finding the right rhythm between the two players so you can make as many points as possible without tripping up the jumper, but thankfully you aren't eliminated if a mistake does happen, which does give this game some leniency. Do I still prefer playing the other 2 games I mentioned? Of course, but I do think this is a nice take on those games, and thought it was worth a decently high placement as a result. Number 21, Clock Stoppers. For those who have watched my Let's Play of Mario Party 5, you would probably be shocked to see this game so high up here. But here's the deal. This game sucks when you are with computer AI. They will absolutely screw up, and you will likely lose this game as a result. However, when you are with a competent player who knows what they are doing, this can actually be a really fun challenge to do. Other minigames in future installments do this kind of team-based replicate the middle picture format a bit better, as teammates not on the same wavelength as you might get in the way or start pushing something in the wrong direction. But this was a solid attempt at this kind of mechanic at least. The CPUs are just incredibly dumb at it when they're partnered with you, which will likely lead to lots and lots of rage. Number 20, Beach Volleyball. This is kind of a weird ranking for me, because I did have Mario Party 4's variant up quite a bit higher, and theoretically this one should be better because it has some additional options, especially with the implementation of different types of volleyballs to use. But I think it does kind of lose a bit of charm from the previous iteration, having much less characters to choose from, no single-player battle mode tournament feature, and also just being essentially the same game as Beach Volley Folly. I still like it, but it does take a bit of a dip on the rankings this time, and I feel like the additional ball variants don't really add much to this game either. Number 19, Frightmare. And also in the same manner as the last minigame, the final story mode Bowser fight in this game also takes a bit of a hit as well. It's still pretty cool, and I would easily take this over Stardust Battle in Mario Party 3, but Mario Party 4's final battle just had a bit more going for it in my eyes. The Mecha Koopa bouncing can be a bit brainless, the fire ring section is incredibly difficult, getting Bowser to fall through the floor is kind of a nice homage to Mario 3, and the final phase is okay, I guess. So as you can see, there's a lot going on here, but I wouldn't say anything here is a major standout either. Number 18, Flatiator. We have a pretty solid 1 versus 3 minigame here that actually kind of reminds me a lot of Hop or Pop from Mario Party 4, although with less popping and more flattening. Still though, the game runs pretty similarly, and on the whole works pretty well with the single player trying to eliminate the other 3. I do feel like the game might slightly be in favor of the trio, as their movements are more exact than what the single player has to do with rolling on the ball, but at least the Monty Moles can act as a bit of an obstruction or distraction to give the solo player a chance at victory here. Number 17, Squared Away. We got more 1 versus 3 flattening action, but this time the rules are reversed with the one player in a tiny cube trying to escape a team of giant cubes. The single player moves faster than what the team moves, and that will be absolutely necessary considering the size and space difference. If the trio is coordinated, this can be tricky for the solo player to win, but I like and respect the challenge, and I honestly can say that I don't mind playing on either side of this minigame. Number 16, Astrological. I hope you like matching games, because in this game, the best battle minigame of Mario Party 5, your goal is to match the symbol in the middle with the identical one in a large pool of other symbols. In each round there is one less correct match to make, so every round will have at least one elimination at least. And the image in the middle starts off kind of blurry, so if you want to take a guess on what the symbol will be before it fully appears, just to get the jump on your opposition, you have that available to you as well. Those with good eyes and to an extent astrology symbol expertise will definitely have a bit of an advantage here, but I do like the idea and thought it was pretty well executed. Just be ready because there are a lot of symbols to scan through, and the space you are looking for might be a bit closer to you than you think. Number 15, Mazed and Confused. I referenced this game when I was talking about Want Maze earlier, and yeah, I do feel like this is a better implementation of a maze in a minigame format. The idea here is to move as much as you can before the maze layout changes, and use your best judgment to move forward when the new layout arrives. There is definitely an element of luck involved, as one player may get the optimal layout given to them while you're stuck in the middle of nowhere, but I don't run into this scenario all too often, and it has led to some pretty close nail-biting races. That element of luck does keep this game out of the top 10 though. Number 14, Ground Pound Down. Sure, we've had some ground pound racing games in the past, but I feel like this is the first time Mario Party has done something unique with the idea, where instead of being the first to fully ground pound a totem pole, or being the first to ground pound a certain number of times, you're actually kind of racing through a course with a variety of different paths you can take, and the races come down to not only how fast and efficient you ground pound, but also how observant you are of the course around you, and that's pretty cool. There is, of course, an element of luck to this, though, as you can only see the first few blocks of each level, and you may run into a series of rocks below your path that can eat up a lot of time and extra ground pounds. But I feel like the less you fixate on that possibility, the more enjoyable this minigame becomes, and the more it can lead to some intense and very fun races. Number 13, Chomp Romp. It's unfortunate when you honestly have a really solid minigame, but the developers only decide to have one course variant, which means the optimal solution or path is pretty much going to be the same every single time you play it. This is really the only thing that holds Chomp Romp back, as the concept is great and it controls great, but once you've nailed the path down the first time, it's pretty much the same every single time after that. I imagine it can be pretty exciting though in heated matches with equally skilled players where it comes down to who can just barely cut the most narrow of corners to edge out the other one. Number 12, Later Skater. In a world of games like Slot Car Derby, Waterworld, and Rockin' Raceway, believe it or not, but I actually think Later Skater is the best of these types of overhead circuit racers. I feel like the simplistic nature of the game and its controls, combined with the skill element of navigating around the course with ice physics, gives this game a nice blend of fun and replayability, especially if you're interested in trying to set a high score or new record of some kind. The only downside, well, much like Chomp Romp, I just wish this wasn't the only course, and it wasn't just an oval track. I think some additional variants, much like the ones that exist in Slot Car Derby for example, could have pushed this game above and beyond. Number 11, Countdown Pound. Now, I'll be real, there is definitely some bias for this one because I love minigames of this nature. Games where you have to time your input closest to the set given time, or get as close to the set location as possible, using only your best guesswork and estimation skills to your advantage. It's really no different than Time Bomb from Mario Party 2, another dual game that basically has the same concept, but I feel like this one is presented in a more complete format. Also, for this one in particular, not only do you have to be the closest, but you also have to be the closest without going over. Price is Right rules, basically. So there will be that extra bit of tension trying to psych each other out and trying to make the first move before it becomes too late. But yeah, I really like these kinds of games, and although this one is not at the very top of this list, it is still a game I love and a tradition that I will enjoy seeing over the next few installments. Number 10. And we are finally here for the top 10. And starting off the final leg of our journey is the final duel minigame for this list, and my favorite duel minigame of Mario Party 5, Sky Survivor. A very simple duel game where the objective is pretty much in the title. You gotta survive to the very end, while you and your opponent dodge various spiky obstacles along the way. However, what makes this game stand out over others of its typing is really just the fact that it's not just one hit and you're eliminated. You have 5 hits at your disposal, and if you manage to avoid getting hit 5 times before your opponent, you are the winner. If you both make it to the end, whoever has the more health remaining wins, unless you have the same amount, and therefore you both draw instead. It's just a very nice game because even if you get it off to a bad start, you still have some time to redeem yourself, and even if it seems like your opponent is not making any mistakes, it becomes pretty damn difficult to avoid the obstacles later on, so they'll probably get hit eventually. It's just a great concept for a duel minigame, and can lead to some pretty exciting matches where you can't really be too disappointed if you don't win, because it means your opponent skillfully overcame you. And that's way more fun than pulling a damn rope for victory. Yeah, I'm not letting that one go. Number 9. One thing I will give Mario Party 5 props for is that even though so many games are lazy or not too much fun to play, all the games up here in the top part of the list are very solid and have some very unique concepts that make them stand out from the others. And I honestly have to say that Frozen Frenzy is definitely one of a kind in those respects. What might seem like a simple collectathon at first is actually a much different beast when you realize there are only 5 gems to collect. And it's a battle royale to not only collect them, but also to hold on to them as well, as you can knock a gem out of another player's possession by attacking them. With 5 gems and 4 players, in theory you only need 2 gems to win, but how you get to that point can vary depending on your strategy. If you want to collect and play defense, you have that option. The course itself is pretty fun to roam and play around in, but if you want to be an agent of chaos and mess around with other players too, go for it. Or perhaps you want to play passively and not make yourself a target until the very end when there is no time left. That works too. There are plenty of ways to approach this game, and that's what I think makes it very interesting. I suppose the arena could be a bit bigger or have some different variations, and the bottom right platforms are seriously like the most ideal camping spots, but even with those slight flaws, this is a very fun game, and I always like it when it does get chosen, because it was definitely a pleasant surprise for me when I first played this game all those years ago, with how fun and unique this game was. Number 8. Well, I hope Frozen Frenzy wasn't too cold for you, because now it's time for a nice ice-cold dessert in the form of Coney Island, another 4-player minigame collectathon. This one works a bit differently though, because we're not collecting gems this time, but rather building a giant ice cream cone with a ludicrous amount of ice cream scoops. These scoops will rain from the skies, and your goal is to be directly under them so you construct your tall, sweet treat with the tallest concoction being the winner after the time expires. This game I often see being acknowledged as the book squirm of Mario Party 5, the one game that everyone recognizes from this particular installment, and is often seen as the best. And although 8th is a much lower placement than the best, it's still a game that I can acknowledge as one of the best that Mario Party 5 has to offer. It's simple, it's a fun concept, and can get pretty competitive when multiple players are trying to build up their ice cream. I also like the nice small attention to balancing, where the more ice cream you have, the slower your character will go, as it does kind of hinder someone from getting too far ahead if they do get off to a great start. My one issue with this game is that I do wish it was a bit more lenient with the scoops landing on the cone, because sometimes if you are not positioned exactly right, you may miss the ice cream despite being directly on its shadow, and that's admittedly a little annoying. Aside from that though, it's a very enjoyable game, and it's always fun to see the results, just to see how ridiculously big those cones can be. Seriously, my younger self Sweet Tooth would be all over this minigame. Number 7. Okay, I think we've had enough ice and ice cream now. Let's go ahead and move on to a different... Oh, wait. Never mind, I almost forgot about Pushy Penguins. So, let's get back on the ice once again and talk about this one. Pushy Penguins is another game I often see associated highly with Mario Party 5, and sure enough, it's another game I do truly enjoy. The goal is to survive on a slippery, icy platform with waves and waves of penguins coming your way to try and knock you off the platform. And not just proper navigation, but a fine level of persistence will help you come out on top of this game as you try to squeeze through the pushy Tux Boys and outlast your opponents, or really just the minigame's overall runtime. The game will throw varying formations of penguins of varying speeds, and even some big penguins as well, so you really need to be on your toes if you want to have any chance of getting the W here. Trying to find the best openings to get through is key, but there is an aspect of this game where brute forcing it isn't necessarily a bad strategy either, as sometimes you just won't have the time to move to another position, and even if you do, who is to say that the same opening will even be available anymore 1 second later? It's the type of game where I just try not to think so hard about my movements, and just keep moving in an effort to stay as far to the right as possible, and even if I get stuck, I just shift my position a little bit and see if I can overcome the current roadblock. And much like all the best survival games, if you and another player happen to survive, you will both get rewarded for it, and that's always a plus to me. It's just a very fun minigame and a game I'm glad to see returning in other future Mario Party compilations. Number 6. Okay, no more icy scenarios, please. Let's start taking a look at some other interesting tropes in Mario Party. How about this one? What's with Mario Party cleaning games being so good? What I mean by this is, starting around this era of Mario Party, there just seemed to be an obsession with cleaning games, or games that would simulate a common household chore, and most of them were of pretty solid quality, I have to say. And for Mario Party 5, I don't think this is necessarily the first example of this trope coming to life, but it is one I think definitely is worth highlighting as the best 2 vs 2 minigame in Mario Party 5, and that game is Bus Buffer. In reality, this is kind of just a variation of Mario Party 3's Eats a Pizza when you really think about it, with both teams competing to completely clear their playing field first. However, instead of button mashing this time around, it's more about dealing with the controls of your bufferer and making the most of your movements while also dividing up your workload with your partner efficiently. It's really just a solid teamwork exercise, and that's honestly what I think works best with 2 vs 2 minigames anyway. It just feels good to be on the same wavelength with your partner, and more than that, achieve the victory because you work together in an efficient manner. It may not be the most exciting concept for a minigame and is quite simple in retrospect, but it accomplishes what it sets out to accomplish, and I can't really say any more than that. Number 5. Mario Party 4 had 2 minigames that I would personally refer to as Critter Collectathons. And to no surprise, Mario Party 5 does continue this tradition with a minigame of its own, and one that I think is solid enough to make the top 5. And that game is Chimp Chase. In this game, you have to collect different colored monkeys, or Yukikis, as they are referred to in the Mario universe, and put them in their designated nests with their own colors. I think what I like about this game so much compared to previous critter collectors is the fact that there's more to it than just collecting the creature, as you need to place it in the right nesting grounds, which makes it so much less mindless and also gives it a layer of strategy as you decide whether to focus on just one color or focus on whatever is closest to you, or what would be the fastest and most optimal path to return a monkey home. And more than that, the game itself doesn't overstay its welcome either, as 30 seconds honestly feels like enough time. The game even gives you a golden Yukiki to place as well, which if you manage to grab it and place it in any home base, it'll give you some bonus points to solidify your lead or catch up if you get a bad start. Also, unlike Cheep Cheep Sweep, which had a similar collect and return gimmick like this one, this game just controls so much better, and collecting the monkeys is as simple as just walking up to them and pressing a button, which easily removes any sort of possible frustration that existed in the aforementioned 2 vs 2 game. Seriously, this game was such a huge improvement over its predecessors, and a solid minigame to start with when uncovering this game's top 5. Number 4. Our next minigame is another one that often gets seen as a pillar of excellence for Mario Party 5, and although it does get a slight decrease in rank from the last time I ranked Mario Party 5, it's still not enough to take it out of the top 5, and therefore Mario Mechs is my 4th place candidate, as well as the best 1 vs 3 minigame in Mario Party 5. I consider Mario Mechs to be a complete evolution of Mario Party 2's Shell Shocked, and not just in terms of the more futuristic look it has, but I kind of feel like this game fixes everything I had an issue with when it came to Shell Shocked, and it did so by completely rebranding itself as a 1 vs 3 minigame, and one that's actually pretty well balanced too. The solo player has a huge mech with super powerful attacks and a lot of health, while the team of 3 rides around in what I like to refer to as mech scooters that have a lot of speed and rapid fire pot shots. Now, one-on-one, it's easy to say that the big mech has the advantage, as it won't take much to KO a single player with a few well-placed blasts, but this is why this happens to be a 1 vs 3 game. Getting all 3 players can be a bit challenging, especially if they manage to split up efficiently and find ways to continuously fire at you all at once. But the power of the Super Mech is undeniable, and it even has a nice shockwave attack that it can use to knock away any players if they happen to get a bit too close. So even if the power of Sonic Heroes, teamwork, can be a deadly force to be reckoned with, it's not impossible for the solo player to win, and doesn't really feel out of reach either. The game just feels really balanced to me, and as I've stated before, finding that balance can be extremely difficult in 1 vs 3 minigames, so I applaud the efforts of the developers in making this game as great as it is. Heck, in some respects, I almost feel like it's almost a bit too balanced, since if neither side takes out the other team, it ends in a draw where nobody wins, and I've actually had that happen a few times, so I wouldn't even say that it's a super common occurrence if it does happen. Just again, a little annoying if that time does end up ultimately wasted. Mario Mechs may not quite be my top pick, as you can see, but it's one that's always fun to play whenever it comes up, and a perfect candidate for the top 5. Number 3. My ranking of this next minigame even surprised me a little bit, but when I was playing through Mario Party 5 for my stream series, and while I was going through the list of 4-player minigames on my own time, this was one minigame that kind of started standing out to me a lot more for being incredibly good despite its simplicity, and that game is Flower Shower. The goal here is aggressively simple. You just collect flowers. That's it. You don't need to return them to anywhere or anybody, you don't need to catch them on an ice cream cone or anything like that, nor is there a finite amount of flowers either. You just run around the arena and collect them, and that's all this game needs to be. Sometimes yellow flowers will fall, and if you collect them, you get more points, but for the most part, it's just a game where you run, jump if you need to, and collect as many flowers as you can in the time limit. The arena is big, so flowers will rain down in several different locations, and it never really feels like one player will always have the advantage if they get a slightly faster start. It's just about maximizing your flower count and doing what you can to have the most points before the end. I also like how unique the arena is too. It could have just been an incredibly flat area with no jumping required whatsoever, but they decided to at least give us a little more than just that, which is always appreciated. If anything, I kind of wish they would have given some additional course variations as well. But I feel like that is a more of a wishing for more scenario as opposed to an actual negative or criticism for this minigame. In conclusion, Flower Shower is really good, and it truly shows that you don't need to have a super in-depth concept to be a really great minigame. Just have something that's fun and engaging, and the rest will pretty much write itself. Also, the Koopa wedding ceremony at the beginning, super adorable. Number 2. This was a really hard decision for me to make because we have 2 games remaining, and one of them just so happens to be their game I ranked number 1 the last time I ranked Mario Party 5. Does that game defend its title, though? Well, let's find out. My number 2 ranked game for Mario Party 5 is Hydro Stars, which means it does not defend its title this time, but much like Bob-omb Breakers and Mario Party 4, it does get a very significant runner-up placement, and I don't think that should be overlooked. So, why do I like Hydro Stars so much? It's really just a simple racing game when you break it down, albeit with a slightly different perspective. But what I like about this racing game, though, is that it's not just a simple circle or oval track, or even just a straight line either. Rather, a rush to each of the numbered checkpoints in a sequential order, followed by a mad dash to the finish line. However, up until this point, we really haven't had a game like this, and I think that's why it kind of stands out to me. More than that, since all 4 racers are on the same playing field, in addition to getting to each of the checkpoints first, you also have to try and figure out how to maneuver around your opposition, or potentially even throw your opposition off by trying to push them away or cutting each turn early enough in an effort to gain some ground against them. It gives this game a little extra staying power to me, and I personally really enjoy this game whenever it comes up in the rotation. Now, why does this game get slightly lower marks from me this time? Well, it's a reason I've been pretty vocal about for other minigames and other lists, and I do think it's this game's biggest flaw, and that is that you quite literally play the same course and layout every single time, and there are no additional course variations, and this is quite simply a case where if there were other course variants, this would be an easy first place for me every single time, because that one downside is literally the only separation from this game and my actual number 1. More on that later. I suppose it's also kind of a downside that if you happen to miss a checkpoint on your initial pass-through, you're pretty much out of contention from that point onward, and will likely not get first just because everyone else will already be en route to the next checkpoint. However, at least if that does happen, you can make some value out of your time by sabotaging the other players, or specifically the one that you don't want to win. So at least that's something you can do with a botched run. Hydro Stars may not be number 1 anymore for me in Mario Party 5, but number 2 is still a pretty nice honor, and it was not an easy decision to make, even with those reasons I mentioned. Sometimes you just can't keep a good or enjoyable minigame down. Number 1. So, with that out of the way, what did get number 1 for Mario Party 5? Well, I think I'll let this clip speak for itself.
Nice of the princess to invite us over for a picnic, eh, Luigi? I hope she made lots of spaghetti. Luigi, look! It's from
The Goombas.
Dear pesky plumbers.
The Goombas
have taken over the Mushroom Kingdom. The princess is now a permanent guest at one of my 7
Goomba
hotels. I dare you to find her if you can. We gotta find up the enclosed instruction book.
So after a very difficult decision, I have decided to name Hotel Goomba as the best minigame in Mario Party 5. While I do really love Hydro Stars, I also really love Hotel Goomba, and overall, I do think Hotel Goomba does ultimately offer quite a bit more as a minigame. It's a unique experience that hasn't really been done before, being not only a race to the finish, but also a race to use your brain in a manner to solve the puzzle on each floor of the hotel. While the first floor's solution will largely be pretty simple and almost mindless, so to speak, the floors progressively get more complicated, and you'll find yourself needing to take an extra second just to analyze what you're doing, just so you don't make a mistake and lock yourself out of the next exit, and potentially out of the first place finishing position. Perhaps this game's biggest benefit, though, are the sheer number of potential layouts you can get, as it's actually highly unlikely that you'll get the same exact layout in consecutive playthroughs of this minigame. And that's something I really appreciate, because it can take memorization out of the equation entirely. Now, I'm not saying there are like hundreds and hundreds of different layouts or anything to that extreme, and I'm sure some people can still use memorization as a tactic if they play this game enough and live and breathe all the different possibilities. But still, it's a reasonable countermeasure, and it does give this game quite a bit of variety and replayability, probably more so than any other Mario Party minigame that we've seen thus far, and that's something I can actually really respect and admire about this minigame. And I think that's the one feature by itself that's enough to push it ahead of Hydro Stars in the grand standing of things. It's a really solid game, and easily one of the most iconic games of Mario Party 5. Sure, it might be a slight nod to a really crappy Philips CDI game, but it could also be a nod to that song by the Eagles. You know, Hotel California. All jokes and references aside, Hotel Goomba is a fantastic minigame, and one I think is quite worthy of holding the title of Best Minigame in Mario Party 5. Well guys, we've made it through the 77 minigames of Mario Party 5, and that officially means we are halfway done with the GameCube era of Mario Party. I'll say, going through this list and video wasn't as horrific as I initially thought it was going to be, but it still took quite a bit of work, and I'm ultimately happy that we are done with it. I guess it kind of helps that while there are quite a number of stinkers here, they are stinkers mainly due to their lack of substance and unique concepts. I mean, last place is literally just pulling a rope to decide who wins, and that's boring. Most of the games that scored high here scored high due to their unique concepts, and even if they weren't entirely unique, they at least had something special that evolved them over their predecessors, and I think that's something Mario Party 6 does even just a bit better. So I look forward to seeing how that tier list will go in the future. Speaking of the future, maybe in the coming weeks or months you may want to stop by my Twitch channel, because every Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern, I'll be playing Mario Party for my weekly Thank God It's Mario Party Friday streams. I've been playing through all the Mario Party games during these stream sessions, and sometimes I work on minigame tier lists that will ultimately help me in making these final ranking videos. You can come by and watch as I try to sort through the mess of minigames for each title, and even provide your own personal insight as well. Even though it's ultimately my opinion, you may help me see something that I probably would have missed otherwise, and the input can definitely help me out. I won't be doing tier lists for every stream though, but since I have finished this video, it's likely I'll start the Mario Party 7 tier list very soon. So stay tuned for my Friday streams if you want to check out the action. But yeah, I think that's going to do it for Mario Party 5. As usual, thank you guys for watching, and if you want to provide your own analysis in the comments section below, you have my full approval, and I look forward to seeing what some of you guys think about this game and its minigames. Just remember, we all have unique and individual opinions, so if there are some disagreements about the ranking of certain minigames, that's completely fine and not worth any sort of argument or any kind of opinion bashing. So don't do it, okay? Please. But this has been Slim Kirby signing off here at the Depot of Dreams with my fellow Star Spirits. Thank you all once again, and I'll talk to you guys next time for Mario Party 6. Later, folks, and remember, party on.